So, we're diving into a really fascinating personal experiment today, one that gets right to the heart of our modern obsession with work. The title kind of says it all. I scan my brain on hustle culture.
I mean, you've seen this everywhere, right? It's all over your feeds, this constant message glorifying the nonstop grind. It's this idea that if you're not working every single second, you're falling behind.
But what is that message really doing to us?
And that's where this gets interesting. This isn't just about feeling burnt out. This is a deep dive into the real biological changes that this kind of cultural pressure can cause. We're going beyond the feeling and looking at the physical evidence inside our own heads.
Which brings us to the big question, what we're calling the hustle hypothesis. You know, beyond the missed sleep and the canceled plans, what is the actual neurological cost of pushing ourselves to the absolute brink day in and day out?
Okay, so to figure this out, the approach was pretty direct. Put a brain under the exact kind of high-stress tasks that hustle culture celebrates, and then watch what happens in real time with a brain scan. We're talking about measuring things like cortisol, the famous stress hormone, and decision fatigue. That's when your brain gets so tired it literally can't make another good choice.
And now, this is the moment of truth. What did the scan actually show? Let's look at the cold, hard data of what a brain looks like when it's deep in the grind.
This comparison is just fascinating. On the left, you've got the typical brain on hustle culture. It's basically in a state of forced endurance, swimming in cortisol, and just really struggling to make decisions. But check out the brain on the right. That's a genetic short sleeper. These are super aware people who are literally hardwired to thrive on less sleep. And here's the key takeaway. Hustle culture is basically demanding that all of us act like we have this rare genetic mutation that, let's be real, almost none of us have.
And this really shows the cost. The results were, well, they weren't subtle. We're seeing elevated cortisol, which is tied to all sorts of chronic stress issues. We're seeing impaired activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's your brain's CEO, the part in charge of focus and good judgment. And on top of that, measurable decision fatigue, where the quality of your choices just takes a nosedive. It's a pretty clear picture of a brain under attack.
But knowing the biology isn't the whole story. We have to ask the big question. Why do we do this to ourselves? And that takes us beyond the science and into the powerful emotion that drives all of this, the fear of just being average.
And boom, there it is. This is the raw nerve. It's not always about pure ambition. It's a deep, deep fear that if you step off that hamster wheel for even a second, you'll just disappear. You'll become irrelevant in a world that seems to only reward constant, visible output. This totally reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? The motivation isn't just to pull towards success. For a lot of us, it's a frantic push away from being seen as ordinary. That fear of irrelevance. That's the real engine that keeps hustle culture chugging along, even when our brains are waving a white flag. So, if grinding our brains into dust is the problem, what's the solution? Well, this investigation didn't just highlight the damage. It actually pointed to a much smarter, more sustainable, and way more effective way to perform. The answer isn't 110%. It's not even 100. It's this number, 85%. Just let that sink in for a second. I know it feels wrong, but the science behind this is absolutely solid. So what exactly is the 85% rule? Think of it as the sweet spot. It's that perfect zone where your brain is challenged just enough to learn and perform at its best, but not so stressed that it starts to fry. That leftover 15% isn't wasted. It's the critical buffer that prevents all that neurological damage we just talked about. It's the space you need for recovery, for creativity, and for actual long-term growth. So how do you actually put this into practice? It's a pretty simple three-step deal. First, you've got to be brutally honest with yourself about what your true 100% capacity is, not what Instagram tells you it should be. Second, you consistently aim for about 85% of that. And third, and this is probably the most important part, you have to deliberately use that leftover 15% for rest and recovery. It's not passive, it's an active part of the strategy. And let's be crystal clear about something. This is not about slacking off. Not at all. It's about being strategic so you can perform at a high level for the long run. It's the difference between an all-out chaotic sprint that leaves you gassed and training properly to run a marathon. This is about smart, sustainable performance that actually works with your biology, not against it. And that leaves us with this final, kind of mind-bending thought. We've been told our entire lives that the only path to success is to push harder, go longer, and grind it out. But what if all the evidence, from our own brain scans to performance science, is pointing in the exact opposite direction? What if the real secret to unlocking your best self isn't about giving it everything you've got, but about knowing when to strategically hold back?